You're watching Let the Quran Speak. Whether you're headed to elementary school, high school, or university, the start of a new school year brings mixed emotions. For some, excited anticipation. For others, anxiety and even dread. What advice can we offer students returning to school? How can we make the year a positive and meaningful experience? And what are the keys to success? With me to discuss this topic, Brother Shabir Ali. Brother Shabir, you're not returning back to school, but what advice would you give to an individual who's starting out and wants to know how to do well?
Well, if you're starting a new school, this could be a dreadful experience. I think you put it nicely, in that you don't know who the people are that you're going to meet. You may know some old friends, but sometimes if you're attending university in an entirely new city, for example, you may hardly know anyone. It could be, for some people, a fearsome experience.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to meet new teachers, and of course, if you're going into a higher level, usually a higher level of activity, and you don't know how well you'll do, even if you did well in the previous levels.
Mm-hmm.
In all of these situations, a Muslim student is taught to have reliance on God and trust and faith in God, and to enter these situations with confidence, knowing that the providence of God does not lead you to where his care cannot reach you.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, one should have confidence that the abilities that one has been cultivating over the years will definitely help the person to get through this new experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, in Islam, there's this focus on doing well, like pursuing excellence in whatever field you are in. Can you speak about that and how that would relate to a student going back to school?
Yes, in a hadith it is mentioned that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that if you do something, do it well. And more than this, that God likes perfection in things. So when a student is there to study and to earn a degree or to get good grades in high school, this should be a focused activity. One needs obviously to do a number of things, extracurricular activity and so on, but one needs to remember that there is a goal, there's an objective. Why am I here rather than somewhere else? I could be at a football field, but why am I here at school? Because there is a purpose. I have to focus on that purpose and make sure that I do it well. If you're attending classes, make sure you do attend classes regularly and on time. You need to participate well in class, listen actively, take copious notes, read ahead of your class so that you're savvy with what is going on. It's not like you're hearing something being discussed and you're saying, what? You need to be right on top of it so that when it comes to, when there's an opportunity to ask questions, you'll be asking a question which shows that you have read the material, you know what is being discussed, and you're ready to take it one step further. When it comes to assignments, you'll be ready to deal with the assignments and present them on time.
Mm-hmm. One important piece of advice, I think, is for students to be present. We live in a time in which it's easy to get distracted by technology. People come in with their laptops, their smartphones, all sorts of things, and often they're using them within the lecture hall or within the classroom. So it's important for them to be present, to be paying attention, concentrating, listening to what the teacher's saying, and fully being part of the classroom.
Yes, this is very important, and a student may actually be able to get by with doing two things at once, but the student, if there is a smart student who is able to do this, still needs to recognize that what he or she is doing may be distracting to the instructor or to the teacher, and obviously this will be reflected in the marks, if there is a mark for participation, as many university courses would have. And in any case, it affects the interaction between teacher and student, because the teacher gets the impression this is a student who's not really paying attention. And it's difficult for one to present to people who do not seem to be paying attention. So it affects the motivation of the teacher and the quality of the presentation as well. And of course, that means that the entire learning experience is diminished because of the students not paying full attention to what is going on at the time. So you really need to be physically present, and you need to tune out your electronic devices and use them later and use them wisely, but don't use them in class at the time when these would prove to be a distraction from what is going on.
I guess it's also important to respect the institution. There are some things that you might not like. You might not like your teacher, you might not like a certain assignment, but you also need to respect the process and respect what's going on, and participate and do as well as you can within the sphere that you're in.
Yes, you're there to achieve something, and this is the institution through which you will achieve that. So you have to respect the vehicle through which you are obtaining the good things of life that you are aspiring to. And yeah, respect your teachers, respect the school surroundings, respect the institution on the whole. Try to do well, and of course, respecting your situation does not mean that you will not try to improve it. But if you see that there are things that need to be improved, you address a letter to the appropriate body or authority who can make the changes necessary. You point out defects so that they can be corrected, because you love this place and you want to make sure that it improves and that it does well in what it was designed to do.
Now, for an individual who's leaving the family and going out and going to school, whether it be in the city or somewhere else outside of the city, what advice do you have for that individual in terms of being responsible for themselves?
The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was once accompanied by a young boy on one of his trips, and he said to the boy, "I'm going to give you a piece of advice, and that piece of advice is very simple: be conscious of God wherever you are." And that is the same advice which I would offer to students, as you described, who will be leaving home, going to another city. You will no longer have mom and dad around to watch over you, but you shouldn't need that. You are becoming an adult, or you have become an adult. You're a young adult. You are responsible for your actions. It's between you and God now. You know that God has been watching you throughout your life, and you know that God is still there, still present, and your moral obligation is not only to do what is right in the eyes of your parents, but even more so to do what is right in the eyes of God.
And I guess to help you along, it's really important to find individuals who are like yourselves, find friends who are like-minded, who can support you and help you. Find organizations, for example, that can help you as well.
Yes, in the student years, one has a lot of time on one's hands, although study can be quite time-consuming. But many students find that they do have time that they can spend in pursuing religious activities. They can join religious groups on campus, and they can do a lot of things which later on in life we find ourselves too busy to do. You mentioned friends, and it is very important that one surrounds oneself with friends who will be good models for us, people we would aspire to be like, people we can learn from. Or we might have friends who we might be able to help in some way, and so we have a chance to do some good for another person as well. At the same time, it is important to be selective in having friends, because first of all, you can't be friends with everybody, because then the word friendship itself loses its particular meaning. And so we have to make some choices. So what friends would we not have? We wouldn't be friends with, though we can be friendly towards, people who are bent on doing evil, people who are pursuing a lifestyle that is so contrary to our own and opposed to the basic values that we stand for. Recently, we were shocked by some news that came out of Eastern Canada, where some students were singing a chant depicting themselves and boasting of their prowess in having intimate relations with very young girls, underage girls, and this obviously is something that not only is shocking to us, but should be a warning sign for those who are choosing friends. Obviously, we don't want to be in a clique like that, where people are celebrating principles which are so contrary
Go against
to
morality.
morality, yeah.
Are there any particular fields that you think that Muslim students should pursue?
Well, we find that many Muslim students are in the engineering and medical fields, and these are important fields, and we need to have doctors and engineers and so on. But there are some other important fields as well, which Muslims need to be very prominent in. For example, the legal sphere. Because many Muslims do need legal representation, and if they can speak to a Muslim lawyer who will understand the Muslim culture and civilization and Muslim attitudes towards things, and this will be very helpful to the Muslim community. We need people in social work. This is an essential in that Muslims are here displaced from other countries. They're here in a new environment. They face many social problems. They need people who can relate to this Muslim reality. And we need people in journalism. We often complain about the media misrepresenting Muslims and their faith. If we have Muslims in the field, they obviously will have the responsibility to be as neutral as the field requires of all its practitioners. But at the same time, the Muslim will have a special insight into Muslim communities and Muslim behavior and practice. And that will help to smooth over this difficult period where Muslims feel that they're being misrepresented largely in the media. These are only to name three important fields, but there are many other fields, especially in the humanities, politics, for example, in which Muslims can and should excel, and that will be for the greater benefit of Canadians on the whole and of Muslims in particular.
Great insight. Thank you for that, Brother Shabir.
You're welcome.
We'll take a break. When we return, we will answer questions we received from you, our viewers.